Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is another edition of Rich Reflections, where we're going to take about 30 to 45-ish minutes out of our day to simply just think more intentionally about our own life. I'll pose questions that are spontaneous off the top of my head, and it'll give us some time to really pause and think thoughtfully about our life, about certain moments, about what we want, about how do we keep track of our actions so that we are heading in the direction we want to be going and making progress, right? All these little things. Everything in the universe is made up of atoms. It's only a matter of how they're assembled that make them what they are. So what we're going to do is think about how to arrange those atoms. And we're going to start this session with 5 minutes of breathing, like we do every session. So I will set a timer for 5 delightful minutes. And all we're going to do is just sit here and breathe. Go. Don't think. That's the whole point. And this will allow us to clear our minds. Just breathing in and out. If thoughts come up, just simply let them pass. They are not important right now. Just breathing in and out. All right. So that was 5 minutes of breathing. How do you feel? Something so simple, right? And, if we want peace, if we want to feel relaxed, if we want to feel better, it doesn't cost anything. Sit down and breathe. All right. So let's start the session with the first question. And the first question, as always, is what are we grateful for? I'm a little squirrely tonight. I'm recording this at night. I think the last one I recorded was in the day. Was it? But, I have a chalice of red wine from France. I think I'm, whatever the French term is of Anglophile, I think I'm a Francophile. Is that what it's called? Okay. What are we grateful for? Yeah, I specifically only drink French wine if I can help it. I used to be very against French culture. The thing about French culture, Parisian, is that they think that their culture is the best. And, there's so many cultures in the world. It's very arrogant to think that like yours is the best. Like each one has its own thing. And especially being American, I love that I can experience all the cultures. And we're a mix of so many different cultures. I love that. In a city, you can go and everything is up to the individual. It's like whatever you want this to be, it can be created. Whereas Paris, you go in and everything's kind of the same. It's like this collective culture. And for a long while, I was very against. I had this like hate. And I was in Miami one time and I ran into this guy from Paris. He asked me to borrow my lighter. So we were. So the question in here: what's something you hate? Explore that more, right? So what's something you hate? And so I was in Miami, and there's this space where it's a pool, and then there's like string lights over the pool, and there's a disco ball above it. And like I stepped outside and I started smoking a cigar. And the guy comes up to me, asks to borrow my lighter. And I was like, yeah, sure, here. And so he's smoking a cigarette and he goes, you're really leaning into that cigar culture. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, in Miami, you're in Miami, you're smoking a cigar. I'm like, bro, I'm from Chicago. We smoke cigars. Michael Jordan, Al Capone, you ever heard of them? And it was just a really pretentious vibe. And I was like, give me my lighter back. And so he did. And I used that as an example of Parisians, French culture. Always thinking their culture is better. And there's like a way about it. But then I think deeper. Oftentimes what we hate there's something there, you know, and it should be explored. A lot of times that's the direction to go, is what we hate, you know, what, maybe we want that. Maybe we actually love that. But there's something in our mind that's blocking it, so we're hating it. The music I love, the style I love, the food I love, the drinks, the lifestyle, like, yeah, I like Parisian culture, French culture. So, I don't hate it any longer. So what's something that we think we hate? And explore it a little bit more. What's really going on? Be honest with yourself, you know? And I think about, like, online, if we're talking about, like, social media and stuff, I wonder if a lot of times the negativity is really deriving from something deeper within, an insecurity or just a lack of flushing out one's thoughts. I love playing with this lighter. I have this other gold lighter, but I always have to refill it. Every time I go to the cigar shop in Chicago. Yeah. See, this one is small and gross. No, but I'm doing revisions on The Gate of Clouds. It's a novel I'm working on. I believe it's going to come out June 3rd. And this character is like a Francophile, for sure. And I'm not fully realizing that until I'm like going back and revising the novel. Yeah, so I've leaned into the French culture now. I embrace it. I mean, I wear a ring that has a fleur-de-lis on it, which is a symbol of the French monarchy. Actually, I've learned a lot from Louis XIV. So, would say of historical figures, he's like in that Mount Rushmore of influence. Who's in your Mount Rushmore of historical influence? I definitely have to go. It's actually quite hard. Mount Rushmore has four people. I've actually gone to Mount Rushmore during a road trip I took, solo road trip out west, Rapid City, South Dakota. It's smaller than you think. But what's impressive about it was made by dynamite. Mount Rushmore. Well, we got Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt, right? So historical figures of influence that have like personally influenced me. I put Alexander the Great there, Marcus Aurelius, Louis XIV. Do I count Jesus and Buddha? Do I put them on there? Or are we going like kings and like leaders like that? Not spiritual leaders, but like political leaders. Yeah, that's a tough one. If it's historical figures, then it's really quite broad. If it's political leaders, then it's probably more specific to the Mount Rushmore. There's so many people I've learned from. Ramses II, that's someone I want to learn more about. I was having a conversation with someone, and we were discussing the greatest leaders of human history. And they argued that Ramses II is number one, is first. Yeah, interesting. Okay. What's something we want to get better at? I feel like I ask this question every other reflection. So how's it going? Something I want to get better at is my enunciation. What do you call it? My diction. I want to enunciate my words clearer. I kind of have this Midwest thing where I just kind of throw everything together, and it's not as precise. You know. I used to be a voiceover actor. Welcome to Rich Conversations. And now. No. And that was probably my biggest thing I had to improve was my enunciation. I got better at it. What you want to do is speak from the chest, like your diaphragm. So you're speaking more down here rather than your mouth. If you're speaking with the source coming from the mouth, then it becomes more nasally and kind of mumbly, Whereas if you speak from the chest, it's a lot more. I don't want to say booming, but it is robust. Been thinking about that. Thinking about getting a table right here. Some flowers, some books, maybe put that ship there. This room's really coming together. The study, the farmhouse study. I have some energizing things coming up soon for the YouTube channel, for a variety of things. Something I'm learning is, or my interest, my curiosity has led me to copyrights and public domain. So, where has your curiosity led you recently? Not what are you curious about? What's something you have been curious about and have followed that thread? And what have you learned from it so far? Yeah. Copyrights in public domain. It seems boring on the surface, but I find it quite thrilling of the possibilities, because what I'm discovering is that people, society, markets, they're looking at things very myopically, or very, very nearsighted. Whereas lately I've been able to zoom out and understand rules so that I can realize my far-sighted vision. I think by the time the novel comes out in June, things will be quite interesting. I'm on a pretty, I don't know, people would call it aggressive. I just call it, I don't know, just executing. Path with publishing. I'm really into publishing this year. And I'm working on a number of books. And right now I'm working on process. And with anything we want to accomplish, anything in life, the success of it is often determined by process. Certainly if we're going to replicate, if we want to replicate experience, if we want to replicate results, process is huge. Anyone can do something once, but it's a matter of process and being able to repeat those things. And so the first quarter of this year, going into the second quarter, it's a lot of creating process, refining process. Not sexy. It's not sexy on the surface, but its depth that it will create and the substance is profound. So cheers to process. Process is something always aware of, but when I read the Bill Belichick biography, he was very big on process. Nick Saban, big on process. And process also creates freedom. You know the rules of the process, you know the boundaries, and you're able to be more present within it. You're really able to play, to learn, have fun, grow. You don't have to reinvent something every single time, every single project, every single event or experience. Like you keep at it, you find your wheelhouse, you develop it, and can really lead to beautiful things. And that's what 2025 will be. So what are you working on the first 3 months of this year, this quarter, and what energizes you going into the second quarter? Yeah, something I did yesterday was say yes to something tomorrow that I should have said no with. And now I'm looking forward to tomorrow much less than I would have. I'm able to help others. The issue is that it's in the time that I have delegated for myself. I don't really compromise on it much, or certainly within a short amount of notice. Like with my schedule, I plan things out. I'm diligent in understanding and being intentional with all these different spaces in the calendar. And I said yes to something. And it sort of deflates me a bit when I think about it, like doing it. It's not a big deal at all, although it's a very big deal. We shouldn't be sloppy with how we give out our time or how we spend our time. We should be very, very stingy, very intentional, very... stingy's the wrong word, sloppy's the wrong word, diligence is not the right word. Careless, reckless. Time is the greatest treasure that we have, right? So we don't want to be careless with it, And so moving forward, I'm be aware of how I feel right now about it. But then when the time comes, when you're helping others and it works out for them, it helps them, it's important to still have a positive attitude and do it. What you committed to. So how can we be? What's our relationship with saying yes to things outside of the time? What's our relationship with saying yes to others in regards to giving out our time? I'm only speaking from my personal experience and self, but I'm very cutthroat when it comes to that, sort of. But maybe you're struggling with that. Maybe you're giving out way too much time to everybody else and not giving enough to yourself. It comes back when I think about it is if you're not operating at a high level yourself, what you're able to give is minimized. So you want to be careful, intentional about how you spend your time or how you give your time to others. That's something I observe too in other people is are they giving enough time for themselves? Oftentimes it's no. The answer is no. And it's very apparent. I can see it, So then there's all these little cracks in their life because they never have the time or energy to really address those things. And so their life is just like this cracked sculpture in a way. And that's certainly not how I want to experience my life. But because of that too, they're not truly able to give their all. Because all these cracks, right? It's like little aches and pains, getting banged up. You're never 100%. But the NBA trade deadline was today, and my favorite team, Milwaukee Bucks, traded Chris Middleton, who's, he's a franchise staple. We won an NBA title with him, and he was traded because he's never able to stay healthy. His durability and availability, his lack of availability is an issue. And I'm listening to all these like Bucks podcasts to tune in to see what their reaction is, or on Twitter, and it's like the sky is falling. How could they? Blah blah blah. Are you serious? Like, have you been following the team? He's not available. A very underrated part about relationships is availability. Are you here when I need you? Are you here consistently? Like, cool, yeah, you show up, you tell me you love me, all lovey-dovey, yeah, things are good when you're here, and you show up and you actually do put effort in. But then what about the rest of the time? I'm not comparing Chris like that. I love Chris, and I appreciate everything, but availability is quite a skill, a durability. That's something I think about with myself. So what's our relationship? How durable and how available are we? Mentally, I'm very durable. Physically, I feel like I could be more durable. I hate the cold. Like this week, yesterday, I had a really off day. I gotta say, the grayness and the cold really affected my performance. I just hated it. It was like, started the day, I hated it. It was cold, it was gray, it was depressing. Everything was just harder. And I like to think that I overcome that stuff. And I do. I still got a lot done. Why am I shouting? I'm working on revisions. That's the main thing. But then I have all these other things I want to do. And it was just like, it wasn't happening. Even after a long, hot Epsom salt bath. It's like, I want to go somewhere warm. I Why am I here? I can't be that smart if I have to constantly cope with this. Yet at the same time, it's very effective. I gotta say, that's why a lot of writers that come from Scotland and England, the weather sucks. You don't get a lot of writers from, the south of France, Italy. Nice weather. It's the cold weather. That's where the writers are. Next winter, I don't want to be in the cold much. But it affects everything. It's like my skin. My skin is so much drier. It just feels weird. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. All of you that live in warm climates, I get it. I'll come visit you. I'm planning a trip quite soon. And the basis is sun and warmth. Sun and warmth. Okay. We're wrapping up here. What material are we reading currently? What are we giving our focus towards as far as external material that we're reading and, let's say reading? Spoke to a close friend recently, and he's part of a book club in New York. There's 5 of them, and they read 2 books a month. And then they go out and talk about the books. And then they have their server pick out the next book. So they each come with suggestions, and the server picks. That's neat. I like that. I like that idea. And he said Man's Search for Meaning was his, that they read recently, by Viktor Frankl. A very renowned book, very, very fantastic book. Holocaust survivor, and he was a psychologist, and so this... being in, I think he was in Auschwitz and maybe another concentration camp. And the experience really allowed him to practice his theories, develop his theories. And it was a lot about purpose and meaning. Yeah, his children died, his wife died, his whole family died. And that may be so, but as an individual, as far as survival goes and living your life, and you have to figure out how to overcome that, how to see meaning within it. So I recommend that book. The issue I'm coming across is that I know all this stuff. I love reading a lot of religious and spiritual texts. That's my favorite. I love reading spiritual and religious texts. But it's it's like all the same. Truth is truth. And when you like know it, it's like there's nothing left to do but live it. So as far as books go, I've been struggling a little bit to get some inspiration, to get some kind of motivation. But I think coming up, I think I have an idea of how to address that. And it would have to do with reading classics and public domain works. And that would energize me. So what is energizing us for the next week? What are we energized for the next week? Always good to have something we're energized for. Something I want to do too is create a database of all my books, my library. I have a floor. You can't see it over here. We got stacks of books, not organized in any particular way, other than I think within the next 2 years, these books I would like to read. Then I have like 12 totes in the barn of books, and I got most of them at thrift stores, like crazy cheap. Really substantial books for so little of cost. So every time going to a thrift store, it's quite an adventure. It's so thrilling. I don't buy too many new things in stores. It's the thrift stores. That's where my energy comes from. When you know, and this is why we do it. This goes back to why we do this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Life is so much more meaningful, so much more fun, so much more purposeful when you know what you want and you like and how you want to live and you live it. It's the best. It's the best. So life becomes more of a game and an adventure and a journey rather than just like this existence. And while something small like this seems insignificant in the time, like when you do it habitually over and over and over, and you don't compromise on that, like you do it with regularity and energy, it's transformative. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Love you. Go out and inspire the future.